Check the timing first.
So that's what would you be your diagnosis right at the moment? Catch your breath, Ash.
So fit. Harley WLC, no engine number on it, so it's probably a post-war engine. They made so many. The only thing, what distinguishes it as a WLC is the high headlamp, because they would have had an ammo box here, whereas on a WLA the horn's up there and the headlamp's down there. These shackle pins are longer because they had a front stand on them, whereas a WLA doesn't. Front spindles have a pull out like that, but that's been added, that should come out like that on a proper WLC. Rear stand is different on a WLC. It should have the foot plates on it, making it much sturdier than the original WLA ones. Should have cloth oil lines on a WLC. Woven oil lines, but it's got metals on it. Obviously it was a military bike at one point, but it's just been put together with bits. When they break, they put other bits on them, you know. That's the way it goes.
So what's the difference between a WLC and a WLA?
Well, apart from the obvious bits, there's no difference at all. One's for the American Army, and one was made for the Canadian Army.
Okay.
That's it basically, and on different.
So it's not civilian and army,
no,
it's Canadian and American?
No, it's Canadian Army and American Army.
Okay.
The civilian model was just called the WL. There was no A, no C, it's just a WL.
Okay.
45 cubic inch WL.
So the client just wants this really, so he can ride it. So what can you see on here is obvious that needs dressing? What's less urgent?
The back mudguard needs bolting on, because there's no bolts there. The battery tray bolt snapped. Well, you can see they've welded it or something to there. Might have one of those, I'm not sure, because that'll flap up and down. Rear chain adjusters need locking off, they're not locked off. That hits that, which will drive you absolutely insane when you're riding it, I should think. The pedal needs doing, because that'll drive you nuts. Everything on these gets worn out, because they do rattle and bang and clonk. They're just noisy old things. But without running it, I mean, personally, I think it needs new tyres. If you look at all the splits in the sidewall, look, I wouldn't want to go riding that around really. It's splitting, see them all split in the middle. WLC's had a hand clutch as well, whereas this has just got the foot clutch. That's what that extra hole for is there. You had another cable that went in there up to a hand clutch as well as the foot clutch. It ran both. There should be a chain oiler that comes along over the top of the gearbox and bolts to here and just drops a tube down, a little tiny tube, so it should be oiling the rear chain. But again, in Holland, possibly they may have deleted it or taken it off because they don't like things leaking over there, and these drop oil. That's the way they work. So I think that tube there, see that hole there? Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's where your chain oiler tube should come out, and it comes along here over the top, bolts to the gearbox there, and just drops oil onto that, and you adjust it. See that screw? Yeah. That has a taper on the end of it, and you put shim washers in it just to allow a drip of oil to come out onto the chain as you're riding. So they've obviously taken the shim washers out and wound it right in to stop it getting oil out of it. Exhaust looks all the usual. Squeaky exhaust pipe, so they try and get rid of things like that because it will just drive you nuts.
So just going back to the oil and the leakage, obviously the client wouldn't want any oil leaking from it. So
well, they do drip oil.
how can you mitigate against that? What can you
Well,
do
you can take that pipe out like they've done and just put chain lube on it. That's up to customer's preference, you know. And the other one, that screw there, it's got a washer on it, so that's bleeding some oil through. What that does, it just lets a mist of oil vent into the clutch casing. So you've got a small, it's only a tiny, just mists it in there to keep the primary chain lubricated. You can't tell whether the chain's really warm. It is a bit, but I mean, safety-wise, if he wants to ride it, I check, pop the wheels out, check the brake linings to make sure they're okay. I'd change the tyres because I wouldn't be happy riding on them. Bolt the mudguard in, do the battery box, give it a tune-up, obviously, because we know it runs. Adjust all the brakes up. Whether Dan wants the brake swapped over to the right hand side, which is normal procedure for English riding. Grease everything up, you know, make sure everything's working. Check all your wiring through. I mean, it has got some moody wiring on it. Like that earth there's split, but it doesn't matter, but that wire is just going to go, so you better off just putting a nice new wire on it, you know.
Yeah.
There's all little bits of wiring on it that look a bit iffy to me, but well, unfortunately, it's one of those things with wiring on this. If you start digging into it, you'll have to rewire it. So obvious things like that earth strap, you know, all of this is, nothing's falling apart. So it's one of those things, if you start taking the wiring apart, you'll have to rewire the bike.
Is that a big job?
No, not particularly, but because it's civilian, I believe you can get WL, just straight WL wiring looms. I don't know. I've only ever done military ones, to be honest with you. Oh, that's the other difference on a WLC. You can change, all the wheels are interchangeable. See those bolts there? They're Allen key bolts, and you can take that wheel out and put it in the back wheel, or take the back wheel out, take those bolts out and put it in the front. I believe WLAs you can't do that. I think the wheels are different.
Okay.
I know these spring shackles are longer to take the front stand. I don't know what this switch is for. You've got a horn, and that's normally your headlamp switch there. So they put one here. See, the original WLC, it should be here and just clipped on. It was, I can't remember what it does now. It swaps over some lighting from one system to another, but it should be clipped on there. And it is just one of those with two clips on it. So perhaps they've moved it up to there, or maybe they did that on WLCs for some point, I don't know. Set the tappets, check the timing, all your obvious things just to make sure it's working okay. Probably pop the card float out and reset that, because they're normally miles out. Dan doesn't want it military, which is the only ones I've really sort of done, so, but I can understand why. I like the patina on it, it's nice. There's the original green paint. Should be a number cast in it somewhere under here. Right, those engine casings are 1943.
Okay.
Which is at least it is wartime engine, you know. No engine number stamped in it, so it'd have blown its engine up. They'd have picked one up out of the stores and slung it in. So you've got 43 9738. That means it was the 9738th engine built in 1943. That could have sat on a shelf and been put in this in 1960. You've no idea. But it is a wartime engine, which sort of gives it a bit more provenance.
Yeah, definitely.
That's your positive battery terminal, and that's flapping around. So if that shorts to that, not good. Yeah, see that bracket there? That's on the wrong way up. That should be down below, and that would take the hand clutch cable as it goes through and lines up with that hole in the arm. It shouldn't have a spring on there. So what they are is a combination. Seat post bush is gone, which is normal. What they are is a combination of different springs, lengths and compression weights. So the rider, they weighed the rider and changed the springs in that shaft.
Wow.
I've got a picture somewhere of it. So you got under £130 rider, different springs, 130 to 150, 150 to 220, over £220 rider, and it tells you what length to adjust them to, because you've got all these adjusters on the bottom. There's rebound springs in here, and that shortens that post or raises it.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, you wouldn't think, you'd think it's just a seat post, wouldn't you? But, and you can buy all the bits for them. You can get the right pins, you can get the right clips, you can do all of it. But if Dan just wants to ride it, he'd stick a bolt through it and leave the spring on it. It's just, you know, that's it. It's totally up to him.
But if he's finding it not comfortable, you could adjust that.
Yeah, you can adjust it all up. Yeah, you know, give us his weight without being too rude.
So, have you started it yet?
No, we'll try if you want. I've got some petrol, just make.
Yeah, let's give it a go.
Right, so we want fuel on. Right, so full choke, full throttle. Be enough to prime it. Back off one notch on the choke. Ignition on. A little bit of throttle. Timing all the way out. See what happens. Nothing came to quiet. Right, take the air filter off, make sure it's getting fuel. Oh, that's getting no fuel. It should be dribbling out of there. Yeah, it's not getting any fuel at all. And we know we've got fuel to there. Oh, it's not fresh, so right, let's prime her again, see what happens. So you want full throttle, fuel's on, full choke.
Nothing spitting out, but there's definitely some.
Yeah, that's alright, that should have enough to fire it now. Try on full choke. Right, well the timing's out, I can tell you that straight away. Yeah, timing's out. Yesterday, I took the carburettor off, which hasn't been apart in donkey's years. Somebody's put the rubber ducky float in it, which is good, but it was all set up wrong. The main jet was blocked. The main venturi was, all the feeder holes were blocked. So I stripped and rebuilt the carburettor. I haven't cleaned it in case he wants it like the patina look, you know. Okay. But the insides are all done, they're all clean. Took the distributor apart. Where this bolt goes through, you've got a power cut, that's your power lead underneath. That bolt comes up through and it should be isolated, because that's earth and you've got that's power. There was no isolator in there, so as it was moving, because it wasn't done up, it's shorting out. Okay. Hence why it wouldn't spark. Ran fine on idle. The minute you try to rev it, it wouldn't have it at all. So the condenser's gone. So I've put an aftermarket condenser on it, not an original Harley. And it runs fine now. What else did I do? Took the plugs out and cleaned them. I don't think they'd ever been out. I've readjusted all the tappets, so they're all done. So you know the valve glow were too tight, which gives you a little bit of sort of, they don't pick up properly if they're too tight. I've readjusted the clutch to make sure it goes in and out of gear okay. And that's about all I got to yesterday. Like I say, I'm not happy with the wiring, so I need to look at that. But hopefully now, let's try it. Okay, so we give it full choke, full throttle, kick it over a few times, fuel's on. Should be enough. We've got fuel. Okay, so ignition on. Oh, that was the other thing I've done. These two twisters should work in opposite ways, but this one has got two throttles on it. So when whoever was trying to set the time in, it says pull it all the way back. It's not, it's push it all the way forwards, because it's a throttle, not an advance and a retard.
Okay.
The air filter back on, and then your mixture will change a bit, so I'll reset the mixture. That's how they should run. No irregular in it now, it's all smoothed out how it should be.
Nice weather, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it actually runs quite well. Should be warming up now. So you're not going to get one to run a lot better than that. That is your ignition advance and retard, so you leave it forwards, it should be backwards, but it's got the wrong twist grip in it.
Yeah.
So you leave it there. If you're coming up to a hill or anything, you know, a real steep hill, then you just back it off that way a little bit, retards the ignition slightly.
Okay.
That's your throttle as per usual. That is your, so that you push down to put it in gear. Yeah?
Yeah.
And then you have to feather that very, very slightly, and then you'll feel the clutch pull in. Then you can give it some throttle, and then when you want to, that's all the way down, so that's in drive, yeah, with your toe down. You just, most people don't bother using their toe, just use their heel. So you bang it down, second gear. Once you're rolling, you can just snap it back down. It's only the feathering bit to start with.
Yeah.
So that's your gear change. You're back into neutral. Full clutch, and then when you want to go first, and then you just feather it in to pull away. And then whilst you're riding, you have to ride it one-handed, yeah? Let go of that, pull it through at the second, toe back down, and the front brake is on the wrong side. That's your front brake, not a clutch. That should have a spring-loaded washer in there to stop that rattling like that. A lot of people love them. Once you get used to them,
Yeah.
they love them. You're used to riding a bike like that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Put your foot on the brake. You can't. You have to take your foot off the foot peg and stand on the brake like that.
Yeah.
It's all just awkward. But I mean, you may be used to riding them.
Next week on the workshop.
That's your float bowl, that controls your float level, yeah? So when that's fuel's coming into the carburetor, that goes up, and that tang there pushes on the needle, which is that bit there, which is absolutely bollocksed by the look of it.